I don't know why I'm doing this now. Maybe because I almost didn't wake up last Tuesday. My heart did something strange in the night. The doctors called it an episode, and I lay there in that hospital bed, staring at the ceiling tiles, counting them the way you do when your mind won't stop. And I thought, there are things I've been carrying that no one knows, not a soul. My name is Arthur Bellamy. I'm 83 years old, and I've been sitting on this truth for a long time now. Too long, maybe. Long enough that it's become part of me, the way an old scar becomes part of your skin. You forget it's even there until someone catches you and...
I recorded this on my phone. My granddaughter showed me how. She'd be horrified if she knew what I was saying. But she's not here right now, and the house is quiet, and I keep thinking, if not now, then when? If not me, then who will ever say it? I was married to a woman named Margaret for 51 years. People used to say things like that at our anniversary parties. 51 years, can you imagine? And they'd raise their glasses and look at us like we were something to aspire to. And I'd smile. I'd put my arm around Margaret's shoulder and I'd smile. Because that's what you did. That's what I knew how to do. We married young. I was 24, she was 22. We moved into a small house on Deerfield Lane in a town in Ohio that most people have never heard of. And within 2 years we had a daughter, Elena, born in the spring when the yard was just starting to come back. I remember the morning she was born. I remember sitting in that waiting room. They didn't let fathers in, not in those days. And I remember the nurse coming through the door and saying, "You have a daughter." And I remember my eyes getting wet and me feeling embarrassed about it, like a man wasn't supposed to cry. I loved Elena from that first moment. I want to say that clearly. Whatever else I say after this, I need you to understand that first. Our neighbor was a man named Gerald Hooper. He moved in 3 doors down the summer before Elena was born. He was single then, quiet, polite. He'd wave from the driveway. He'd bring over extra tomatoes from his garden in August. Margaret used to say, "That Gerald, he's such a decent man." And I'd agree, because he seemed like one. He and Margaret became friendly in the way that neighbors do, talking over the fence, borrowing things. I didn't think much of it. I was working long hours at the plant then. We needed the money. We were always needing the money. And when I came home, I was tired, and Margaret was tired, and we'd eat dinner and watch whatever was on television and fall asleep and do it all again. I didn't pay close enough attention. That's the truth of it. Not to Margaret, not to what was happening right in front of me. I was present the way a piece of furniture is present, in the room, taking up space, not really seeing anything. Elena grew up quiet and serious. She liked to read. She liked to draw horses in her notebooks. She had a way of tilting her head when she was thinking that Margaret always said came from my mother. "She's just like your mother," Margaret would say. "That look she gets." And I'd believe her, because you believe the person you love, because it's easier than asking questions. But there were moments, small moments I didn't know what to do with at the time. Elena had a laugh, this particular laugh, high and sudden, that I never heard from anyone on my side of the family. And Gerald Hooper had a daughter of his own eventually, after he married a woman named Patrice in the mid-70s. That girl, their daughter, she had the same laugh, the exact same laugh. I noticed it once at a neighborhood 4th of July gathering, the two of them laughing at something, standing near the cooler. Elena must have been 14, 15. I noticed it, and then I put it somewhere in the back of my mind, in that room where you keep the things you don't want to look at directly. I closed the door on it, and I didn't open it again for years. Margaret got sick in 2001, pancreatic cancer, the kind that moves fast and doesn't apologize. She was gone in 4 months from the diagnosis. I've never in my life experienced anything like those 4 months. The world narrows down to hospital rooms and pharmacies and phone calls with doctors who speak carefully, like they're measuring every word. Elena came home from Columbus to help. She was 34 by then, married herself, 2 little ones. She moved into the guest room and she managed everything: the medications, the appointments, the casseroles people left on the porch. I don't know what I would have done without her. There was a night, about 3 weeks before the end, when Margaret asked me to sit with her alone. She was very weak by then. The light in the room was low. She looked at me for a long time without saying anything. I remember thinking she was going to say something about the money, about the accounts, practical things. That was Margaret, practical, even at the end. But that's not what she said. She said, "Arthur, I have to tell you something." And even before she said another word, I knew. I knew the way you know certain things that you've actually known for years, but never let yourself know. It came over me like cold water comes over you. She told me about Gerald. She told me it happened the year before Elena was born. She said it only happened twice. She said she had always believed, had made herself believe, that Elena was mine, but that she'd had a suspicion all those years, a quiet suspicion she'd buried under everything else, under 50 years of laundry and dinners and Christmases and grandchildren. She said, "I think you deserve to know." And then she started to cry, and I sat there. I just sat there. I didn't know what to say. I didn't know what I felt. It was like standing in a house after an earthquake and not understanding yet what's fallen. I held her hand. That's all I did. I held her hand because she was dying, and because whatever else was true, I had loved her, and she was still the woman I had loved, even with this between us now. She died 22 days later, on a Thursday morning in November. I never told Elena. I want you to understand that decision. I'm not asking you to agree with it. I'm just asking you to understand it. She had just lost her mother. She was 34 years old with 2 small children and a husband who traveled for work, and she was already barely keeping herself together in those weeks after the funeral. I looked at her at the reception, standing by the kitchen counter, eating nothing, talking to relatives she barely knew, holding herself so carefully, like she was afraid she'd break if she moved too fast. And I thought, not now. I can't do this to her now. And then not now became next year, and next year became the year after, and 17 years passed the way long things pass, not all at once, but in small increments that add up before you notice. I've been trying to figure out when the moment was, the moment when I should have told her. I've gone through it so many times. That first year after Margaret died, when we were both raw and close in the way grief makes people close. Or maybe when Elena's kids were older and she was steadier. Or maybe when she turned 50 and I took her to dinner and she cried a little because 50 felt significant to her, and I held her hand across the table and thought, now. And then the waiter came and the moment passed. There's always a reason to wait. The timing is never right. Life doesn't arrange itself into the right moments. You have to make them. And I didn't know how, or I was a coward, or both, probably both. The years just kept moving. Her kids grew up. She got gray at her temples, the way Margaret did. She started calling me more often after I turned 80, more worried about me, coming to visit more, staying longer. And every visit, every phone call, I'd carry the thing around like a stone in my coat pocket, and I'd think about putting it down, and I'd put my hand around it,
and then I'd leave it there. There's a particular kind of loneliness in knowing something that changes everything and not being able to share it. You walk around in the world, you have your ordinary days, you talk about the weather and the grandkids and what's on television, and underneath it all, there's this other conversation happening, a conversation you're having with yourself, only with yourself. I don't think I realized how lonely it made me until just recently, until I started sleeping badly and lying awake at 3 in the morning and finding myself not thinking exactly, but feeling, like the feelings were finally getting out around the edges of wherever I'd been keeping them. Margaret has been gone 22 years. Gerald has been gone 15. I'm the only one left who knows, the only living person who has this whole story inside them. And when I go, it goes with me, unless I do something about it. I've written Elena a letter. I haven't sent it yet. It's in the drawer of my nightstand, in an envelope with her name on it. I've written it and rewritten it more times than I can count. The current version is 3 pages. I tried to tell her everything, how I found out, when, why I waited, what I think she deserved that I didn't give her. I don't know what she'll do with it. She might be angry. She probably will be angry. She might feel like the ground she's been standing on all her life has shifted. She might feel like she doesn't know who she is, or who I am, or who her mother was. All of those things are possible. But I've come to think that the truth belongs
to her. It's not mine to manage anymore. It never really was. I kept it because I thought I was protecting her, but protection has a shadow side. Sometimes what looks like protection from the outside is just control. Just a person deciding that another person can't handle a hard thing. And Elena is 66 years old. She has handled hard things her whole life. She handled losing her mother. She handled her own children growing up and away. She handled things I don't even know about, the private difficulties that children don't tell their parents. She can handle this. I think she always could have. I was the one who wasn't sure I could handle her reaction to it. What I miss most when I let myself think about it is Margaret. Not the version of Margaret I was angry at, and I was angry, quietly, in that sealed room I kept things in, but the real Margaret, the one who used to hum while she was cooking, the one who remembered every birthday, everyone's birthday, even distant cousins we only saw at funerals, the one who was afraid of thunderstorms and would come to my side of the bed without saying anything. I've thought about whether I can hold both things at once, loving her and feeling the weight of what she kept from me for so long. I think I can. I think I have been, without realizing it. Love doesn't sort itself into neat categories. It just sits with everything else. I don't blame her entirely. She was young when it happened. She made a decision and then she lived with it. No, she buried it for 50 years. That's its own kind of suffering. I can see that now from where I'm standing. I just wish we'd talked about it before she was dying, before I was alone with it. I wish we'd had the conversation when we still had time to have it together, with enough years left ahead of us to find our way through. But that's not what happened, and here I am.
But I've come to think that the truth belongs to her. It's not mine to manage anymore. It never really was. I kept it because I thought I was protecting her. But protection has a shadow side. Sometimes what looks like protection from the outside is just control. Just a person deciding that another person can't handle a hard thing. And Elena is 66 years old. She has handled hard things her whole life. She handled losing her mother. She handled her own children growing up and away. She handled things I don't even know about, the private difficulties that children don't tell their parents. She can handle this,
I think she always could have. I was the one who wasn't sure I could handle her reaction to it. A pause. Something like a small, quiet exhale. What I miss most, when I let myself think about it, is Margaret. Not the version of Margaret I was angry at, and I was angry, quietly, in that sealed room I kept things in, but the real Margaret, the one who used to hum while she was cooking, the one who remembered every birthday, everyone's birthday, even distant cousins we only saw at funerals, the one who was afraid of thunderstorms and would come to my side of the bed without saying anything. I've thought about whether I can hold both things at once, loving her and feeling the weight of what she kept from me for so long. I think I can. I think I have been, without realizing it. Love doesn't sort itself into neat categories. It just sits with everything else. I don't blame her entirely. She was young when it happened. She made a decision, and then she lived with it. No, she buried it for 50 years. That's its own kind of suffering. I can see that now from where I'm standing. I just wish we'd talked about it, before she was dying, before I was alone with it. I wish we'd had the conversation when we still had time to have it together, with enough years left ahead of us to find our way through. But that's not what happened, and here I am. Elena's birthday is in April. She'll be 67. I think I'm going to give her the letter then, in person. I don't want to mail it. I don't want her to be alone when she reads it. I want to be there so she can look at me while she's taking it in, so she can ask me whatever she needs to ask, so I can look her in the eye and say, "I'm sorry, I waited. I'm sorry, you deserved to know sooner." Whether that goes the way I'm hoping, I can't say. I genuinely cannot say. But I'm done keeping it. I'm 83 years old, and I had a heart episode last Tuesday, and the drawer in my nightstand is not where this story should end. It shouldn't end in a drawer. The voice gets softer, not weaker, softer, like something has been set down. I've been thinking about all the different versions of my life that could have existed. The version where Margaret told me the night Elena was born, or before, where we faced it together at the beginning and figured out what it meant. I don't know what that version of our life would have looked like. Maybe harder, maybe not. Maybe more honest. Maybe the kind of honest that changes you in ways that turn out to be necessary. Or the version where I found out from Margaret and then told Elena the next year, when we were both still in the fog of grief, but at least together in it. Those lives didn't happen. This one did. And this life had good things in it, real things. Elena is real. Everything she is real, regardless of biology or what I know or don't know. The way she laughs, the way she calls me every Sunday at noon without fail, the way she looked at me from across the hospital room last Tuesday like she was daring my heart to try anything like that again. That's real. None of this changes that. It changes some things, but not that. I'm going to stop recording now. My throat is tired, and the afternoon is getting away from me. If you've listened this far, I don't know what to say to you. Thank you, maybe. Or just, I hope you're paying attention to your own life, to the things you're keeping in drawers. Not because I'm telling you to, just because I know what it costs. Not to anyone else, what it costs you. To be the only one carrying something, for years and years, the only one. Elena. I'll see her in April. I'll hand her the envelope, and I'll watch her face, and whatever happens after that,
At least I'll have done that much. At least there will be no more drawer. A long pause. The clock is still ticking. Then, softly, if this story stayed with you, just sit with it for a minute. You don't have to do anything with it. Sometimes just sitting with something is enough. And if you have something in your own drawer, well, you know where to find it. Silence.